What it do, guys? It's your boy O2, and you know I'm back at it doing the most with another podcast episode. Do the most podcast, in fact, where my wife and I, mainly me, I know I try to give her the stage, guys, but nonetheless, ends up being me talking a lot, but and she may not have a whole lot to say about this. Today, I actually learned some things, and hence why you probably clicked on the title. You either subscribed and are interested, or it just popped up in your feed, or you were searching through the algorithm and you somehow found me. Whether the case be one or the other, it does not matter. Welcome to Do the Most Gaming. No, it ain't gaming podcast no more. It's Do the Most podcast where we talk about things that interest us. She came up with last week's topic. Now I want to say it may not have been well received, especially on my end of my fears. And I apologize if my fears uh, offend you, but I shouldn't really, because it's just what I can't help, guys. I can't help what I'm afraid of, just like you can't help what you're afraid of. But nonetheless, we hug a tree, right? That sounds a little hippie, right? Well, it isn't actually. There is science. Today I learned. There's some stuff I learned. I went out today needing to ground myself. I know in India, East, in Hindu culture, it is very common for doctors to prescribe people to go out into the woods and lay down against a tree or among plants barefooted. It doesn't have to be barefooted, but the more skin exposure, the better. But man, and tree hugging and touching. We're gonna get into this, guys. So the physiological, and the psychological benefits from tree and plant touching. We're gonna keep it mainly trees because some plants can you may not know what they are, and they be an ivy or a poison something, and you may get a rash. You may have an allergic reaction. I do not advise that. We're going to get into allergies, and I'm actually going to drop a pipe bomb, a vocal pipe bomb on about allergies. And it's rooted in what we're going to be talking about today. So drop a like on this video, subscribe if you're not already, and we'll dive in. Let's get it. So tree hugging, tree touching. A lot of people think that's for the hippies, and it couldn't be further from the truth, although it does seem kind of true. Like the hippies do want to save the planet, save the trees. I get it. But tree touching, and that means you can put your hand on it, you could wrap your arm around it, you could hug the tree literally. Tree hugging and touching. Today I went out, and I'll tell my story here in a little bit. And if you have any input at any time, I may look to you at some of it, and she'll have she can say as much as she wants, guys. But tree touching and hugging, but we'll stick to touch. Some of y'all probably like, hug a tree, but it's calming and grounding. It acts as a natural, science-backed method to reduce stress, lower cortisol, which increases stress. It's a stress hormone, guys, that the body releases for fight or flight, and stabilizes the nervous system. Physical contact, so touching the tree, it can be your hand, it can be your back, it could be laying on it, laying down against it. It allows for an exchange of electrons. They call it earthing. So the exchange of electrons is happening, and this is due to the water in the tree. And this could be a tree that's dormant too. It could be during the winter, a dormant tree. But obviously in the spring and summer, it's probably the strongest. But because there's water in the tree and there's water in us, that's the thing. Trees are great conductors. So are we. That's why if lightning strikes us or a tree, we're both we're not doing too well. But this exchange of electrons by touching a tree, and I'll get into a little more how long you should do this. I can say it now. Between 5 and 15 minutes a day, you should be touching a tree to see these benefits. Reduces inflammation, and I looked a little deeper into that. Inflammation throughout the whole body, guys. The whole body, not just the brain, not just where you touched at. Your whole body. It actually reduces inflammation, and while the sensory experience itself, guys, it fosters mindfulness and emotional balance. Now, That may sound a little far out there, but not really, guys. Physical grounding, it's called earthing. That's kind of the nickname it's been given. Trees act, like I said earlier, just a second ago, they act as natural conductors, allowing your body to connect and realign with the earth. We come from the earth, we'll return to the earth, but these trees are just as alive as us. And I'll get my story to my story that I had today in a little bit. We're recording this. We always record these a Sunday ahead, so that we're able to drop and have the next one ready, so we're not scrambling, on a Saturday night or the day of, because they do take time. These videos take time to upload and put together, of course. It's a very good at calming the nervous system. It actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system. If anybody doesn't know what that means, there's a sympathetic part of our nervous system and a parasympathetic. The parasympathetic actually slows down heart rate, breathing. It activates the vagus nerve, and more. It slows down processes in the body. So if you're anxious, stressed, angry, all the negative emotions, things that the mental noise in your head, the anxiety, maybe even depression, guys, has been proven. And where we're going to get at is what I learned today, and you may learn today with us. They're called phytoncides, and they're spelled out Phytoncides. Phytoncides. I'm like, what is phytoncides? O2? Well, I done a little digging because there's actual names to some of these plant compounds. They act as they're volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, and they're released by trees and plants into the air. One moment, as I try not to screw up the video. They act as VOCs, volatile organic compounds, released by trees and plants into the air to protect themselves from insects, harmful bacteria, and fungi. Everybody knows that fungi, bacteria, pests like mites and ants, and bees and all kinds of other little things, birds, like to mess with trees. And trees are alive, so they have defense mechanisms, meaning chemicals. And when we think of chemicals, we always go to the medicine cabinet or the cleaning cabinet. Guys, the earth is full of chemicals. In fact, a lot of your disinfectants actually are derived from plants. When humans inhale these airborne chemicals, a central part of the Japanese practice of called forest bathing, I'm going to butcher this, maybe Shinrin Yoku, they provide significant physiological and psychological benefits. So another benefit, guys, it boosts the immune system. Exposure to phytoncides significantly increases the number and activity of natural killer cells. So your white blood cells, which act on free radicals, which promote cancer, high blood pressure, all kinds of things. Endothelial blood vessel endothelial cells are what make up your blood vessels. They boost this. They destroy virus-infected and tumor cells. These effects can last up to 30 days after a multi-day forest trip. So if you're out in the woods for several days, this would last you a month. But I would say a 5 to 15 minute per day that's going to be enough for your day, for a 24-hour, 48-hour benefit, just for the immune system. And everybody loves to take vitamin C. I'm a big supporter of vitamin C, vitamin D, things for your immune system. Stress reduction. Inhaling these compounds lowers levels of stress hormones, like I mentioned, cortisol and adrenaline too, and can reduce blood pressure, guys. I know a lot of y'all guys out there have high blood pressure. It runs in my family. I have it. My brother has it. My dad has it. My papa died of it. It's everywhere, man. Improved sleep and mood. So when I say sleep and mood, these phytoncides, I'm going to struggle with that word this whole podcast, have like alpha. So we're going to get into some of them. Like alpha pinene, have sedative qualities to them that enhance sleep quality. That's insane, guys. They are also linked to reduce anxiety, depression, and mental fatigue. So you could say it goes both ways, stimulatory and inhibitory. If you're looking for some of the best sources, like, oh, well, what tree do I go to, O2? And it's a funny story. I'm gonna get to my story, guys, soon. But coniferous trees, such as pine, cedar, spruce, firs, and hinoki cypress, are the highest producers of phytoncides because there's more phytoncides than the one I just mentioned. Broadleaf trees, oak, eucalyptus, and birch. And edible plants, guys, and herbs: garlic, onion, rosemary, sage, and tea tree. Houseplants, aloe and myrtle can also release phytoncides, helping to improve indoor air quality. And nerve plants, too. They didn't add that. But still, the top compounds. So here's are the top three phytoncide compounds that actually are helping, are doing these jobs for our bodies. And we take this for granted. And I'm going to share my story that I had today, something I have felt very deeply that I haven't felt in a long time. And although we were out there very briefly, I will be spending more time touching trees. I know it sounds really weird, but here's the science behind it. So alpha pinene, like I just mentioned, is found in pines and firs, known for anti-inflammatory and bronchodilator properties. That's for people with asthma, even allergies. And I'm going to get to the allergy part here in a second. Limonene, it's found in citrus and some conifers, such as the firs, the pines, the cedars. Cedar was mentioned, and we're going to get there. It has antioxidant and anti-stress effects. And then there's the third one, and there's probably more than this. This is just from a simple Google search, since I did find phytoncides. Beta caryophyllene, found in rosemary and black pepper, which black pepper also has piperine, which would bolster this effect, make it more powerful. Helps with pain relief and inflammation. Back at inflammation, guys. And a lot of people suffer from arthritis and inflammation just in general in the body. And little did we know, uh, you should be sitting out in the yard somewhere or touching a tree. Now, to my experience, and I'm going to hark a little bit about why is everybody, it seemed like 100 years ago, probably, I wasn't here and alive for this, but I felt like 100 years ago, allergies were probably less of a thing than they are now. And the reason, I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way before I get to my story, because I don't, yeah, I guess I can make y'all less mad at me by telling my story. But maybe you won't get mad. This is all informational and very interesting. In fact, I feel like in the last 3 or 4 generations, especially last three, but 4 if you include Gen X, um, so many people are allergic to everything: gluten, pollen, this tree, that tree, this plant, every grass on earth. Why? And this was not me researching, but I guarantee if I researched, guys, this would still be the reason. It would just be a little more scientific and less brash, as I'm going to be. It's because we as a society, especially Western civilization, guys, has lived in a bubble. A bubble. People go to work, they go to a building inside. Some people work outside, but they go to a building. They go in there and they the concrete jungle, and never go out and actually touch a tree. Never ground themselves in grass. Now, and that generationally happening over and over and over. Going to work, coming home, never stepping foot in a yard because you're afraid to get worms or something. That is the production and reduction of natural antibodies and introducing allergies in the human genome. Get out of your bubble, guys. But nonetheless, I'm going to get to my story today. So I was really stressed out today, really, really stressed out. And I don't want to go too deep into that. That's personal. I got too personal last podcast, and I'm not going to do that again unless it benefits both me and the viewers. And I thank you guys so much for watching. But my story today, so I was really stressed out. I then went to the gym, and I was like, I forgot to go do something. My wife was like, what? I was like, I gotta go touch a tree. And I felt the need to, and I've known about this for a while. I didn't know about the phytoncides, but I knew I needed to go touch a tree. And we went to a specific trail that we've both been on many times before. And most of the trees right now, like, spring is coming in, like, but it's still like technically winter until the several more weeks. But nonetheless, I was walking and all of a sudden I seen a cedar tree. Cedar tree was mentioned. And I immediately was drawn to the cedar tree like it was calling my name. I don't know how to explain it. I went up to that cedar tree and first took my jacket off and put my back up against it. And I kind of looked around and seen the limbs hanging around, and it has kind of weird. It's not really leaves per se, more than it is like it's kind of spiky, but they're not as spiky as like a holly tree, but just kind of there, and had my back against it. Looked down at the roots, turned around, put each hand on it, and when I was doing this, I knew for some reason, I don't know how, I just know because I know these trees are alive. I could sense that the tree, because trees do know when pests, they have these volatile these phytoncides that actually are harmful to insects, fungus, and other stuff. Bacteria is good for us. It's good for us because we come from the earth. And not only that, like trees, I think, want to help us. We just have to open our eyes and realize it. As I was touching this tree, it was quite opposite of a cemetery. You go to a cemetery to mourn the dead. I never felt, well, I'll just say, from my tough day, touching that tree for a few minutes and being there next up against it and touching it, that cedar, I felt acknowledgement from the tree. I don't know how to explain it, but it knew I was there. So much so that this is the thing, I was not picking at the bark. You didn't see me picking at the bark or anything. I had sap on my hand, guys, sap, which it came off pretty easy considering pine is really hard to get off, pine sap, but so is cedar if you work with too much cedar. I've cut trees all my life, which makes me sound like a hypocrite, but I had sap on my right hand, and I could smell the terpenes and the phytoncides too, and I was like it was like the tree letting me know, like, hey, I know you. And I didn't even see sap on the tree. That's the thing. So the fact that I also got a little confirmation on my hand from the sap was kind of a mental, not just a mental, a spiritual message, I guess, from Mother Earth that, hey, I knew what you were doing. I knew what you were doing. And as crazy as that sounds, it makes sense. We are made up. If you look at everything that human beings are made up of, they're made up of everything that trees suck out of the ground. I mean, that trees are made of. We both decompose very similarly into the same soil. So it makes sense, guys. And I'm going to give my wife the floor if she wants to say anything on what I've said.
You've done a good job.
Done a good job. What do you think about trees? Let's interview her for a second, guys. What do you think about trees?
They're living and provide a lot of things for us.
Yeah, and sometimes they can be a danger. You have big trees in your yard or in your neighborhood, and big tornado or thunderstorm hits them. But I have never seen a tree go out and intentionally hurt anyone. Never. Yeah, I've heard of trees like limbs falling on cars. I've seen tornadoes rip them down, and lightning bolts strike them, and the dang timber down into the roof of the house and messes up the house. And we get mad at the trees or maybe even the weather, which it kind of can be controlled with some of the weather patterns from the government. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but trees are here to help us. Plants and trees. Man, Big Pharma would hate this conversation to get out and be on there. They would never sponsor me, Big Pharma. Trees, plants over pills. But we have traded that because Western society is, and I mean, for the global, man, I mean, there's so many pharmaceutical companies that are overseas. There's like Teva in Israel, and many others. There's a British company. I'm slipping on the name. Can't think of it, but it makes a ton of medicines, that array of kind of conditions. And these are like, a lot of these are either synthesized, man-made, totally synthetic, or derived from plants. A lot of medicines are derived from plants or natural things, but are synthesized and synthetic. Just kind of like motor oil. These days, most cars run on synthetic motor oil. except oil is natural. It comes from the ground. But we add things to it to lengthen its lifespan of use in like vehicles. But men messing with nature is dangerous, and we want to blame nature for things when humans really are the problem. Nature is here to help us in hard times and good times, and we have to realize, and until we realize that we need nature more than nature needs us, we'll always be in turmoil. We'll always be sick. We'll always have disease. We'll always have disorders. We'll always have problems until we acknowledge that Mother Earth is, in fact, our mother. Now, I know this is a very hippie sounding podcast episode. My wife didn't have much to say. And I didn't really expect her to, because this is more of it sounds hippie, but it is very true. You can go do your own research about it. If you don't believe me, don't believe me. Actually, verify everything that I said. Check, cross-reference. Check everything I said. Don't take me for it at my word. Go look it up yourself if you're interested. And also small little bits of exposure. So say you are allergic, small little bits of exposure can actually help your allergies over time too. Hence why, like, allergy shots, you've ever heard of anybody getting allergy shots? My little brother grew up getting allergy shots. And what they do is actually they introduced a little bit of the histamines that you're allergic to in that allergy shot. Just very tiny amounts. And what would be better for you, at least in my mind and eyes, would be to expose yourself to a little bit. Now, if it sends you into anaphylaxis, it's a little different, I understand. But if it gives you the sniffles and the coughs and the runny nose, exposure therapy, it's used in the mental health field all the time. It should be used in the physical too, and mental health for this. If you're using it, hugging a tree, touching a tree for mental health. If you are allergic, subtle, 30-second, 40-second, as long as you can stand it, exposure to these trees and plants. Again, we're focusing more on trees and plants. Especially if you don't know what the plant is, if you can't identify it with a book or your phone. These days, Google and phones, you can literally put your phone up to a plant and it'll scan it and tell you what it is. So you really have no excuse to not know these days with technology. Touch plants, and if nothing else, be on grass. It's very grounding, very grounding. But I'm not here to preach the hippie hog mantra, but that sounds stupid. But this is real stuff, man, and I encourage you guys to look into this. It goes deeper than what I just shared. It goes way deeper, and I could actually spend an hour or 2 hours talking about this, maybe perhaps longer, the more I researched and studied. But it is very encouraging and here's another thing. We are deforesting our parks, our everything. Yesterday, we went to the park where we actually got engaged at, and pulling down the road that leads to it, there's actually a lot of woods were cut down. For a little bit of forestry was cut down for new houses that live right next to the park. This walking park. It's a white walking bike park. It's pretty long. I think it's like a little over 6 miles long. There's literally several houses lining up next to it. They cut a bunch of trees down. How sad. Overpopulation has become a problem. I won't get too much into that because I don't want anybody getting on to me. And but yeah, we shouldn't be cutting trees down unless they really are in the way. And I understand that people have got to lay their head somewhere, but yeah, man, trees are amazing. Plants are amazing. Plants over people any day of the week. I know that sounds like some kind of, I don't know, weird evil statement, but it's not, man. Plants, you don't see plants out hating people. You don't see plants out doing what humans are doing, destroying the planet. So I encourage you guys to go hug a tree. Go hug a tree today. Go touch one. Go put your hand on it and count to 60. Do something good for yourself for once, and instead of stressing like me. That's why I knew I needed to go touch a tree today. Literally, it was in my head, and I knew exercise. I went and exercised for roughly 30 minutes. It didn't help, especially with my anxiety and stuff I was going through. They say exercise help. It helps a little bit, but it doesn't help it doesn't just get rid of your anxiety. I would say touching a tree, 30 minutes of touching a tree would do much more for mental health than 30 minutes of vigorous or light exercise. Personally, that's my opinion. I'm not a expert on this, but the research I have done is very promising. Very promising, guys. And with that said, we are going to wrap this podcast up. We thank you so much for watching Do the Most Podcast. For those that do watch and those that watch regularly. If you watch regularly, thank you so much, man. It means the most to me, to us. We appreciate it. If you're new here, please consider smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on this video, and leaving a comment on what you think. What you think about this episode. And, hey, because sometimes we run out of ideas. This idea hit me today. I told you like 2 weeks ago that I only do things that hit my head, When I'm having trouble, y'all comment what you'd like to hear me talk about. We would love to do episodes about things that y'all would like to hear about instead of me just picking. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. Like I said, comment, like, subscribe if you're not already. And we appreciate you so much for watching. We will see you in the next Do the Most podcast. You already know that your boy, O2, does the most. Thank you so much. Over and out. Peace, baby.